There are cars, and then there are cool cars. Those that star in the movies, pose on our wallpapers, hang from our bedroom walls, and generally have a mythical aura of badassery about them. But the truth is, some of these cool cars are not as good as we think they are. In fact, they suck. Badly. Hello viewer, I'm Stipe. In this episode, an Asian black guy, a toilet seat, and 7 cool cars that are actually terrible. Let's go!
Number 7.
The gorgeous-looking C1 was the start of something special, true American sports cars. But aside from the Euro-inspired exterior design, everything else about this car was terrible, to the point that it was almost canceled just 2 years in. For starters, GM didn't have much faith in it, so they had given the project minimum funds. This was enough to develop the brand new sporty chassis, but not much else. The straight-six engine was the only engine Chevy made at the time, and it was powering everything from trucks to Corvette. Although tuned for more power in the Vet, it capped out at just 150 horses. But even that was too much for the manual transmission, so they fitted it with a stronger 2-speed auto. 2-speed. Anything less than that, and it wouldn't even be a gearbox. The fiberglass body was also a novelty, and because no one had much experience working with it, the panels were fitted badly, and the car would leak profoundly. But cold rain feels even worse when the heater is an optional extra. C1 was crude, sluggish, and under-equipped. Thank God for the V8 that saved it.
Number 6.
If a car is owned and driven through some intense action set pieces by the coolest person ever, James Bond, that car automatically becomes cool and desirable.
Shut up and take my money!
One such case was the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me. Instant cool. It also helps that the car was drop-dead gorgeous and the last production car to have the pop-up headlights. But this is a Lotus, and you know what that means. Lots of trouble, usually serious. Esprit was being made while the company was going through some pretty serious financial troubles. Quality suffered, and in a desperate bid to save every coin, this supercar was made with parts that came from other not-at-all supercars. Through its 28-year lifespan, Esprit borrowed door handles from Morris Marina, steering wheels from Pontiac Trans Ams, and headlight motors from Fiero. Fog lamps were Astras, front suspensions from Ascaris, body panels were the same material as your toilet seat, and the brake pads were from the Pigeon. There was even more, but the worst was the Renault gearbox. Because it couldn't handle the power, the twin-turbo V8 model had to be detuned from 500 horsepower to only 350. That's not cool, man.
Number 5.
Henrik Fisker is no stranger to designing cool cars. He did the Z8, the DB9, Vantage, and finally his very own Karma. Although I must say I'm not the biggest fan of the Clark Gable mustache on the front.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Still, Karma was glamorous, sexy, fast, and an insanely environmentally friendly hybrid. How insane? Even the wood on the dashboard wasn't cut down but recovered from the bottom of a lake. Perfect for fondling your newfound virtue signaling mentality. Problems? Yeah, it was mostly form over function. Good looks don't come without sacrifice, so the people in the back seats were left with no headroom. The 2-liter gasoline engine was only used to generate electricity while making the same droning noise, no matter if you accelerate or not. In true startup tradition, the fit and finish were poor, it was catching fire, and then my favorite problem of all, fumes from the side exhaust would give you lung cancer if you had your window open. How hilarious is that? Save the world by killing yourself.
Number 4.
Hey girl, want to go back to my place in my convertible Maserati? Convertibles are cool, and so is the Maserati name, but the Chrysler TC by Maserati is probably the worst car either of the two companies has ever made. You might fool a few people, but it only takes one person who knows what TC is to expose your act. So what is the TC? It was a deal where Chrysler would supply the chassis and the parts, which Maserati would then put together and give a bit of styling and flair. Now, I don't know who tried to screw the other harder because Bob picked the cheapo LeBarons as the base, and Luigi did the bare minimum to make it look any different. Here, you try to find 5 differences in these photos. Headlights, badge, the tooth, bumper grill, damn it, The end result was, of course, terrible. A boring-looking front-wheel drive 160 horsepower, 4-cylinder, 3-speed automatic based on the poorly handling budget car chassis. Also, due to the shipping back and forth, it was priced as if it had the Mac Pro wheels. That is to say, way too much.
Number 3.
On the surface, the King Cobra had it all. The coolest name ever. 5-liter, V8, flamboyant bodywork, T-top roof panels, louvers covering the back window, white letters on the tires, and a big fuck-off Cobra art on the hood. All it ever asked from you were some tight pants and a mullet. Oh yeah. But sadly, King Cobra is still a Mustang too, which I think is one of the most embarrassing cars ever made. In an effort to save every penny, Ford based it on the explosively dangerous and cheap Pinto. It was also poorly built using low-quality materials. As for performance, Mustangs never handled well, but even that was made worse, and the drag strip time was truly pathetic. Because of the oil crisis, all cars were detuned to sip as little fuel as possible, which is why the 5-liter V8 in King Cobra only makes 140 horsepower. That's 28 horsepower per liter. Coca-Cola and Mentos make more than that. Basically, it's a Cobra with no venom, muscle car with no muscle, a black guy with an Asian dick.
Yeah.
Take a look out of starboard.
You get the idea.
Number 2.
Because of the Back to the Future movies, DeLorean has a cult status with the public today. I want one, you, we all want one. However, that's today, whereas back then, before the movies, absolutely no one wanted one. And so, due to the weak demand, DeLorean went bust 2 years before the movies could ever make any difference. And I'm not surprised, since almost everything was wrong with the DMC-12. It took 5 long years between the prototype and the production model, during which DeLorean was burning money without much to show for it. The untrained workforce was rushed to get the car out the doors, and when it did, it was riddled with build and reliability problems. Moreover, the V6 engine made only 130 horsepower, 70 less than what was aimed for. The Lotus Tune chassis had some last-minute changes, which made it probably the worst handling car Lotus ever worked on, and the stainless steel body made it way too heavy for a sports car. Expensive too. So why did they pick a failed car for the movie? Because of the steel body and the gull-wing doors that made it look futuristic? That's all.
Number 1.
Look, I love the Countach as much as the next guy, but it's time to face some facts. This car was as bad to drive as it was good to look at. For starter, the cabin is cramped. It's noisy, smells of gasoline, and other than forward, there's no visibility. You actually had to lean out the open doors when parking in reverse, which took some real skill thanks to the heavy steering and a clutch that's harder than a nipple on a cold day. Also, despite the crazy body, or rather because of it, Countach was an aerodynamic disaster. It has never seen a wind tunnel, which means that Lamborghini was literally just eyeballing it. Hey, hope that works. That's a terrible way to design the new fastest car in the world. Well, okay, it wasn't the fastest. Lamborghini lied that it was, just to stick it to Ferrari. And then there was the rear wing, which, by the way, was set to a neutral angle. Any other angle, and the front end would start to raise. So what's the wing for then? Nothing. Just to look cool and block your rear view. Still, do I care? Not at all. I love it. And that's the list, but to make it an even 10, let's add 3 more. Can you recognize them? Do you agree with the picks? Write down in the comments, like, dislike, subscribe if you're awesome, and we'll see you in the next one. Cut! On the surface, the King Cobra... On the surface, the King Cobra... On the surface, the King Cobra... Cobra...